Welcome back, Nick Lenz, Comic Corner Classics / Non-Classics. This is episode number 1244 and Doubleshot number 1138. Now, I got two Marvel's ratings for you. First up is a character that I have kind of reviewed him before, but as far as I can remember, I don't think I've ever reviewed any of his trades before. Well, I think I've reviewed like team-up trades or him appearing in our books, but a solo trade of his? Can't think of one. I've done for his daughter, but not him. This is Wolverine, Volume 1 by Ben Percy. Yep, this is actually one of Ben Percy's two titles from Marvel. Excuse me. And here's a surprise. Despite this book being pretty thick, you're probably thinking by the length of it, there must be about 7, 8 issues in here. There are 5. Yep. Now, Ben Percy is definitely the main writer of this book, which is quite strange, though, that he's doing this book in X-Force, despite the fact, I think it was like last year, that it was announced that he was going to be writing Moon Knight. Which I'm like, where the heck is the Moon Knight book? Has that been canceled? I have no idea what the heck happened to that. It's quite weird. Now, there's a couple different artists in here. Now, the big one is Andy Kubert. He does 1A. Yeah, basically, the first issue's got 2 stories in it. And he also does issues 2 through 3, 4 and 5, and, of course, the 1B is by Victor Banovic, I think it's pronounced. This comes from the 7th volume. Yes, 7th volume of Wolverine, which is still publishing right now. And like with the other book, next thing that deals with this series is X of Swords, which we'll get to in a minute. Now, this book is mostly put Wolverine do a couple different things. First, he teams up with an agent of the CIA to deal with some pollen. Now, you're thinking pollen, I mean that stuff from flowers? No, this is an actual drug. Also, this guy, apparently, while investigating the flower cartel, that's people who actually were in charge of this thing, he apparently got contacted by basically almost every single federal agency in the country to investigate the drugs brought into the country by Carokia. That's the country where the X-Men are based currently. Yeah, the X-Men got their own country. They've had this since like last year. Thank you, John Hickman, for doing something drastically different, given their own freaking country. And of course, Wolverine himself, basically the stuff mentioned with X-Force, which does explore in the own X-Force title. Oddly enough, this came out after X-Force. Even though that the way it's set up here, it seems that this book takes place prior to X-Force, but it's Ben Percy. He can do whatever he wants with it. Now, if you're curious, though, despite looking at the cover, like, what costume does Wolverine wear in this era for X-Men? He puts on the 80s costume. Yes, the ugly yellow and brown outfit. An outfit I'm not really a big fan of. I'm not sure why he did this for, just that he did. Also, this sort of his minor side story where he basically briefly gets amnesia and he's in like Antarctica. But that's not the only side story here. Now, the drug thing, that I thought was really cool. The fact they really explored that. And the fact Jean Grey isn't here, which that was awesome. Along with X-Force making basically a supporting character appearance. Yeah. Now, the side story in here is, well, one thing is that he basically, apparently Wolverine decided to get Magneto drunk and steal his helmet. Just so he could take on this Ice Queen, which he does beat her. And that's it for that. And of course, well, this guy apparently somebody he's like, it seems like he's Wolverine's drinking buddy. That's what it seems like anyways. There's also a bit with Omega Red. I mean, why not throw Omega Red in here? I mean, he's got a long history with Wolverine. Stretching as far back as Omega Red's first appearance. But didn't know each other for a very long time. Oh yeah, the side story is that, well, aside from the Wolverine amnesia thing, there's also another thing in here where Wolverine teams up with a vampire slayer. No, it's not Blade. Where he teams up with one vampire group called Night Guard, where apparently they're eliminating the Vampire Nation. Yes, and apparently because of the focus on the mutant country of Carokia, apparently the Vampire Nation is able to rise up really quicker than usual, which I'm like, really? Okay. And they do, in fact, They team up and they basically deal with one of the nests. And as far as I can tell, I don't think this is explored later. This is just a side thing. It does like mildly build happens a little later, but this overall is actually pretty good. And I gotta appreciate the fact Ben Percy writes Wolverine to act like Wolverine. Surprisingly, he doesn't have a girlfriend at this point. Nope, because it seems like almost every single writer seems like giving a girlfriend. I mean, there's hints to the fact that there could be a potential relationship between him and Jean Grey. Well, there's a good reason for that. And the reason is because apparently, according to Way Hickman, oh yeah, by the way, I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. Fantastic book. Because apparently Hickman has it where apparently Jean Grey and Cyclops are divorced now. Yes, somehow they're no longer married, so basically Scott is single. Yep. Next up, it is Hellions. You might think, wait, Hellions? You mean the group? You mean the group that was formed by Emma Frost back in the 80s, or the squad for the X-Men? Yes. Despite a group being called Hellions, aside from this guy Empath, there is like nobody associated with the previous two incarnations of the Hellions part of this group. And this group is comprised of Empath, Psylocke, Havoc, I think his name is Wardchild, I think his name is? Oh, Wildchild, Orphan Maker, and the Nanny. Oh yeah, and also they have Scalp Hunter of the Marauders. Yeah, that's him basically just behind Empath. Yeah, Psylocke, Havoc, Wildchild. This, I think, is Orphan Maker, Mr. Sinister, Empath, and, well, Scalp Hunter. This is written by Zeb Wells, believe it or not. Yes, one of like two writers who's worked at Marvel for a long time that doesn't get a lot of recognition. I mean, I know that Jason Aaron, Mark Waid, Ed Brubaker, a lot of these writers simply get a lot of recognition over the years. Zeb Wells is one of those writers who doesn't get a lot of recognition, despite the fact he's actually a really good writer. I've never met him in person, but I would think he probably feels like he's a bit underappreciated at Marvel because the guy doesn't get a lot of work at Marvel. I mean, I think the last book I think he working on prior to this was Action Candy Avengers. Because it seems like he goes a freaking long time between books. Now, here's something also surprising though. This book is $17.99, which is basically worth it. This book is $15.99. Now, basically, this is an original title, not a miniseries like the previous book that was, the last time was a Hellions book published from Marvel. It was a spin-off of the new X-Men series, which this book has nothing to do with that. Now, despite the book of Hellions, does Emma Frost appear in the book? Yes. Does she have anything to do with him? Nope. She's more associated with Marauders than deal with this thing. This is basically a group that's basically their person in charge of this group is the overseer of this group is Mr. Sinister. Despite the fact Psylocke is leading the team, and I also love the fact that the artist decided to put her back in the 90s costume. A costume that I think a lot of people really like this one a lot better than her post-AVX look, where she has the full bodysuit. Yes, I think that this particular look, the one she had from 2013 to about 2019, I think this look by far was not, from what I can tell, this is probably a look that probably did receive some negative reception. And I'm sure that probably like, maybe he can probably say, hey, can I change her costume back to her costume I like? And Marvel probably like, sure, whatever, you can do whatever the heck you don't want with the X-Men. Yep. Mr. Sinister, of course, is back to its classic look, which I do appreciate that. Though he does keep the facial hair when he was adapting the Victorian era look. Scalp Hunter has never really changed his look. Havoc did slightly alter his look a bit, because before, when he was last seen prior to this, his little like things on his head were actually crushed on his head. So they basically made it a little bigger, which I do appreciate that. Wildchild, for some reason, is dressed like his Age Apocalypse version. I'm not really sure why this is. Though the thing is, Wildchild had been dead for some time. He got killed off at the pages of Wolverine Origin. He got killed like long after they killed Omega Red. And my guess is the reason why he's back, the Resurrection Protocols. Yep. The Hellions, simply put, are a group of troublemakers. Yes, troublemakers. Who basically the team leader is Psylocke. Not Havoc, Psylocke. Which that actually does make some sense because because you gotta at least have some X-Men. I mean, yes, though the thing is when it comes to Havoc, he's considered a finding out of the X-Men despite the fact that he actually had only been part of he wasn't there when the team first formed. He was, I think, the first official recruit to the team who actually stayed with the team. That was a brief member like Mimic was. So basically, Mr. Sinister basically puts the team together to deal with something he did years prior. Yeah, apparently Mr. Sinister's reformed. Oh, and here's something interesting though about this book. I thought this was really interesting. He had this, there's this business he has on Kuroda, the Bar Sinister, which I'm like, did Zeb Wells bring this from Secret Wars? Because in case anyone forgot about Secret Wars, Mr. Sinister had a place in Battle World called the Bar Sinister, which makes it the second time a location from Secret Wars has made an appearance in regular Marvel continuity. The last one was the Quiet Room. Yeah, the nightclub that's owned by frickin' Black Bolt. So they're sent to an old farm. They're sent to an old cloning facility, Mr. Sinister, to simply demolish it. Because Mr. Sinister is trying to reform himself instead of being the old evil villain that he's known for being. So they all go there. So half the time deals with Wild Child. Orpmaker basically is a crybaby, where he basically cries for his nanny, who is a tiny robot. In the case of Scalp Hunter, he's actually very level-headed. Empath, oh boy, the guy is a complete jerk the whole time, and apparently he actually died in this opening story arc. As for Havoc, what the heck he's in the storyline? He encounters somebody he had not seen in years. Which, I do like the fact Zeb Wells called this out. Where he runs into, and you're probably like, really? I thought this character was dead. Runs into Madeline Pryor, aka the Goblin Queen. Which, that is so cool. The fact that the artist that it was so cool the fact they brought it back. And plus, I love this walking group shot. It's typical you see this in comic books, but it's great though the fact that this book actually uses this. I know the Avengers have used this. The X-Men really not use this very much, but it's great to see that. And when Havoc meets up with Madeline, they're like, wait, when did you come back to life? He said, I've been back for years. Which, that's true. She actually, if you're curious though, who was actually responsible for resurrecting Madeline Pryor of all people? It was Karen Gillian. No, not Gillian. It was Matt Fraction. Yes, Fraction brought her back when she formed the original sister. So yeah, somehow she magically came back, and that was back in 2009. This is 2019 this is 2020 when these issues came out. She's back for 11 years now. Though she did return for the second incarnation Sisterhood in the X-Men book by Brian Wood. And she basically has almost like Havoc is sort of romantic attachment to her because they have a powerful relationship thanks to the events of Inferno back in the 80s. Yes, apparently Zeb Wells remembers that event, despite the fact Madeline Pryor is one of Havoc's several girlfriends he's had over the years. Who is her girlfriends? Why, Polaris is one of them. Yeah, he actually stayed here for a long time. Though apparently they broke up when they got back to Earth for some reason, when they were off the Starjammers. There's also the Wasp. Yes, he briefly dated the Wasp. And in one alternate continuity, they actually had a child together. Which apparently all of the rest of the Raiders forgot about that. That was about 6 years ago that they were together. They were last seen together, and nothing has done with it since then. Okay, he also had Nurse Annie when he was briefly dating her. At one point, Havoc was going to marry Polaris, and then he got Cold Finn called off the last minute, have Polaris go freaking nuts. Yep. And aside from those few, yeah, he hasn't got through as many girlfriends as, let's say, Iceman. Oh boy, Iceman went through what seems to be about almost 10 girlfriends in 60 years. Though, for some stupid reason, he's dating Emma Frost's brother because, keep him gay for no reason. I will get to that when I talk about Marauders. So, The Marauders themselves apparently are brought back via like very bad cloning process, because apparently the Marauders were reborn and cloned by Mr. Sinister many times over the years. Despite the fact all of them apparently have been killed multiple times. One time they got killed off is when they got killed off by the Purifiers back in Messiah Complex. Which is an excellent crossover, by the way. I highly recommend checking it out. And basically, at the end of the storyline, the facility itself was destroyed. Excuse me. As for the Marauders themselves, well, they're on the resurrection protocols now. As the case of Madeline Pryor, nope. She can't be resurrected because the fact her DNA is way too close to being Jean Grey's. Havoc points out, though, she's her own person. And there was also mention here, oh yeah, where Havoc had a thing for his brother's wife, aka Madeline Pryor. Which, that kind of was true. And apparently he hasn't gotten over a relationship despite the fact it happened about almost 40 years ago. Yeah, he hasn't gotten over a relationship for some reason. I have no idea why. And people tend to forget the fact that a lot of the time, I think readers don't forget this. I think Marvel writers kind of forget the fact that Madeline Pryor is Cable's biological mother. Despite the fact they treated that she's Jean is her mother, is his mother, despite the fact Madeline Pryor is her mother. Yeah. This book overall is actually pretty good. Aside from Zeb Wells doing the writing of the book, this book has surprisingly only one artist. Yes, one artist. Stefan Savoya, I think it's pronounced, yes. Which his artwork is so good under his direction. Yeah. Heck, even Wolverine makes a cameo in here, which I thought was really good. Yeah. This book is a good start to this series, and like in the case of Wolverine, at the end the thing says, next, X of Swords. So that's 2 books in a row I have reviewed, basically, in this one video, where next book is X of Swords. Yeah, that's something quite interesting about it. Like, Hellions released 4 issues, Wolverine released frickin' 5, and there was actually another book that was just released prior to the X of Swords that released only 3 issues, and that was X Factor. That first trade is not released yet, but I do know the first trade is released for everything else. But I'm enjoying reviewing the Jonathan Hickman era, the Dawn of X stuff for the X-Men, because it's really good. Now, yes, I do know for a fact I have not finished up the previous stuff for X-Men. I'm planning on basically maybe get a chance to review the last trade for Matthew Rosenberg's run. I will eventually review that soon. But yeah, I've just been really enjoying reviewing the X-Men stuff. Yeah, and look at these trades are pretty affordable. Like, this trade being $15.99, it's not surprising there. Nope, not surprising with that because, well, also Cyclops does show up in both of them. And there's also a really funny bit Ben Percy does in the Wolverine book, where, like, Wolverine returns Magneto and is like, I'm sorry. He's like, of course he does point out, like, I should have a drug cartel and I deal with something else too. And she says, well, Cyclops says, well, that's fine. Just be a little more cooperative. That's all he has to do. But here's the thing. Cyclops is not, he may be leader of the Quiet Council, but he's not leader of the country. Professor Xavier is. Xavier, for what I can tell, does play a little bigger role in the Wolverine book than he does in the Hellions book. Yes. Xavier is mostly in the main X book, though occasionally appear in all the other books, which are fine. And for these 2 books, for their starts of their run, I gotta say, Ben Percy and Zeb Wells did an absolutely fantastic job with starting off these 2 books. Yep. So yeah, that's it for this particular review. I still got a few more videos to do. Like, I still gotta do One Piece, My Hero Academia, and Boruto. I'm also gonna do One Punch Man. Yep, I'm gonna do that today too. Basically, expect to see about 4 more videos today. That'll be up soon. We're gonna have to put this video up, okay? See you in the video. Bye.